What a rushed morning this is, and we haven't even gotten started. Good morning to you, Grenada, and the rest of the world. It's a Friday morning, another weekend on our hands. Thank you very much for joining us for today's edition of Gudday Grenada. My name's George Grant. Pilgrims, yes, rushed. Went to the beach this morning, got my vitamin C, and by the way, it's not C, it's S-E-A, if you know what I mean. And we're happy to see you this morning. I see, first of all, before we go anywhere, let's take a look, man. You guys are rushing. I'm not the only one who's rushing. Well, Sherry Wilson is saying, good morning, Gigi and Grenada. Well, Sherry, guess what? You got beat again this morning. Yes, sirree, you got beaten again this morning by good old Hazel Ferguson. She's our winner this morning. Congratulations, Hazel. Don't know whether you're in Grenada or some other part of the world, but thank you so much for joining us, and thank you to Sherry. Who else is there? Oh, by the way, Hazel is also wishing you guys a happy Friday. When she first posted, she simply said, good morning. But now she's saying, happy Friday. Peter Bishop's there. Good morning, Peter. You're getting to be a bit of a snail, aren't you? You're letting these ladies beat the stuffing out of you, huh? You win some, you lose some. Benedict Cador says, it's a fantastic Friday. Indeed it is, Benedict. I'm looking forward to the weekend. Kipling Francis is sending his blessings and asking that you folks share the live. Anthea Rello saying, good morning, have a great weekend. See you all on Sunday. Does that mean you're not going to be with us this morning, Anthea? Hope not. If not, see you on Sunday. And Claude Pudna is saying, good morning, Mr. Grant and class. Hey, Claude, please, you're not telling me I have to call you Mr. Pudna, are you? No. Just good morning, George. Yeah. In fact, as long as you call me, I'm happy. Thank you very much, all of you, for joining us this morning. What are we going to get into over the next 57 minutes or so? Well, I'll tell you. We're going to ask the question, where do you stand on climate change? Boy, you folks have heard so much talk about climate change in recent years. There's some who believe climate change is real. There's some who don't. From my perspective, what I can tell you is it's getting damn hot out there, really, really hot. That's why I was going bonkers over the last couple of days when I did not have the air conditioning. Thankfully, I thank Total Engineering for this. They got this whole thing straightened out yesterday. So it's nice and cool, and thank God, because the rush I'm under this morning would really have me tripping. But anyhow, you have to decide whether or not climate change is real. So what I'm going to do is play you a short video by an organization called WCI, the World Climate Initiative. And read between the lines and hear what they're saying. But before you decide, I want you to hear the second piece, which I'm going to actually read to you. It's a piece by the Secretary General of the Commonwealth, Patricia Scotland. She circulated a piece yesterday which is captioned, "We need to challenge climate change doubters before it's too late." Enough said. You listen to the two pieces, and then you decide climate change, no climate change. All right? We do have the national report for you this morning, and then. This has been a good week, eh? Yesterday, we welcomed back AB, Alan Baczynski. So good to see him and hear from him. Well, this morning, we're also going to be welcoming back somebody who took a hiatus for the carnival season, Mr. Brian Pitt. They're both going to be back with us from here on in. Now, let's get down to brass tacks. So, by the way, Um, what I'm going to do this morning is turn things around a little bit. You know that when we have Alan, we usually do Alan right after the introductory segment, which is what we're doing right now. And Brian wants to be in early this morning as well. So we're going to get Brian in after we do the climate change pieces. I think I just spoke to him about 5 minutes ago, and I think he's on the road somewhere. So hopefully he's going to be able to join us at about 20 after 9 o'clock this morning. Before I get into the first little piece here, let's see who else has been joining us. Fitzroy Adams is saying, good morning. Today is really Friday already? Yeah, man. As you get older, like I found out, seems like the days get shorter and shorter and shorter. And so do the years, my dear friends. So do the years. Lincoln Roberts is saying, good morning or a good day, everyone. Always a beautiful day in Grenada. Much love always. Good to see you, Linky. Still want to see you again before you pull out of here, fella. Got to get together. And Chester Simon out there in Zurich, Switzerland, is also joining us. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining me on this Friday morning. Now, this piece from the World Climate Initiative, WCI, was sent to me yesterday, and I thought I'd share it with you. Ironically, I received a press release from the Secretary General of the Commonwealth pertaining to the same matter on the same day. They both relate to the doubt of some about whether or not climate change is for real. First, allow me to play the piece for you from the World Climate Initiative.
With the Paris Climate Agreement put to bed, climate mania seems to have died down for the time being. So I think it's time for a little dose of reality, because it's getting colder and drier, and it's all because of the sun and the planets. You see, everything that happens on Earth happens in cycles. The only straight line is in man's mind. There are no straight lines in nature. Everything in nature is formed by spinning spheres or waves. So when you tell me that the temperature is going to go straight up, I become more than a little skeptical, because nothing ever goes straight up, and certainly not forever. Let's look at climate cycles over the past 11,000 years. The big picture. You can see on this diagram that we came out of the glacial period about 10,000 years ago. And then we had these up and down periods of warm and cold, cycles. It's like a giant sine wave. Temperature moves up and down over time on a highly predictable schedule. Today, we're in what's called the modern warm period, and there's climate mania, even though it's been warmer on Earth many times before. In fact, the trend line shows it's gradually getting cooler because the sun is cooling. Nobody disputes that. Well, no astrophysicists at any rate. The next cold period is signified by the dark blue blob right below climate mania. It's starting now. But how do we know all this? Well, in the early 1900s, Dr. Raymond Wheeler, with a team of about 200 researchers, analyzed climate back about 20 centuries to 600 BC. He used tree rings and sunspot records to plot both temperature and rainfall over that entire period. He identified major climate cycles of 100, 170, 515, and 1,030 years. Now, he predicted extreme weather at about the year 2000, followed by a turn colder and a long-term drought. And sure enough, that's exactly what seems to be happening. In fact, the global temperature has gone sideways since 1998. Oh, yes, it has. And the recent drop in solar activity is warning of a much colder time coming ahead. What's more, the head of the International Space Station, a Russian astrophysicist with a name I can't pronounce, has publicly predicted a mini ice age is on the way. Now, let's drill down to the most recent 4,000 years. This chart uses data from the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration. It comes from the Greenland Ice Core Research Project ending in 1992. Ice cores are an extremely accurate method of determining temperature back through the centuries. What's interesting about this chart is that it accurately supports all of Dr. Wheeler's cycles. You can see the large temperature peaks every 1,030 years, the red arrows. These extremely warm and wet periods supported bountiful crops so that major societies grew to the height of their power. Dr. Wheeler called it the civilization cycle. You can see the 172-year peaks as well, the orange arrows. In almost every case, the temperature turned colder at the 172-year mark. Now, 2007 was the most recent major turn date. But the other remarkable thing about this chart is the correlation with major civilizations. When the climate turns warm and wet for long periods, the world's greatest empires have emerged. Egypt, Greece, Rome, the Mayans, the Vikings, and so on. When the climate grew colder, these great cultures fell into ruin. Bad things start to happen when climate turns cold. Rome burned as it got colder. Hadrian's Wall was built to keep out invaders at the bottom of a cold spell. Social mood always turns negative with colder climate, and that brings about riots and wars. Cold periods often get labeled as dark ages because there is little advancement in living standards. So here we are at the top of the modern warm period. Unless this time is different, the Earth is going to get a lot colder and drier, most likely for several hundred years. We'll also see a major financial collapse. Yeah, that's one of the great features of the 172-year cycle. It's happened throughout history like clockwork. So, we've spent billions of dollars on this climate mania for nothing, really. We had this information more than a century ago. The sun and the planets are the main drivers of climate change on our tiny little planet. We know that. We can't change Mother Nature. It's going to get colder and drier. There's no question about that. You see, history repeats over and over and over again. So if you want to know the future, you look at the past. But of course, nobody does that. They'd much rather program computers to try to simulate what they think is man-made warming. Meanwhile, just when we're going to need more energy and warmth, we have politicians trying to tax it out of existence and shut down coal plants. If we paid attention to cycles and history, maybe we could plan for the tough times every 172 years.
Did you get all that? That's just one perspective, okay? And that was from the organization WCI, World Climate Initiative. Now, as I mentioned to you earlier, this piece was released yesterday by the Secretary General of the Commonwealth, Patricia Scotland. Let me quote for you. Imagine a London where the entire subterranean region is engulfed with dirty water. Crammed train carriages that once barreled along 249 miles of track transporting busy office workers, builders, teachers, civil servants, cleaners, and students now rest in the murky debris-filled gut of a dying city. Flooded iron ghosts. Last year's chilling headlines warning that London is under threat of sinking was not enough to change the minds of well-known climate change doubters or persuade them that the frightening reality of Pacific Island homes, schools, businesses, and entire nations disappearing into the ocean could also soon become a real worry for Western metropolises. Those of us who have seen firsthand the death and destruction climate change is causing often feel like characters in a disaster film warning of impending doom. For many, the penny dropped after watching Hurricane Ophelia battered the UK. It connected to the narrative of Caribbean countries flattened by hurricanes, typhoons, and cyclones wreaking havoc in the Pacific Islands, and rich arable lands in Africa being turned into desert. In some cases, countries lost the equivalent of 200% of their GDP in hours. The loss of life is heartbreaking, as is the trillions of dollars worth of damage and the resulting spiraling debt and economic regression. Europe has experienced an unprecedented heat wave, with France registering record-breaking temperatures of 45.9 degrees Celsius. The stark truth is that climate change is not at our door, but in our house and ransacking our treasured belongings. More needs to be done, not just by governments and industry, but by each and every one of us taking our responsibilities seriously. Climate change is thankfully high on the agenda at September's UN General Assembly. The gathering is our opportunity to demolish the negative contentions of multilateral skeptics and to mobilize inclusive and responsible action for a sustainable future. The theme, a race we can win, the theme is a race we can win, a race we must win. And that is promising, yet we are doomed to failure if we fail to recognize that the tools we need to win against climate change are political will, collaboration, scientific research, and innovation. These go hand in hand with financing and global public education campaigns to inspire behavioral change. The Climate Change Performance Index, which measures climate protection performance, shows a huge swath of the globe scoring low on climate change. Very few countries scoring high, and no country achieving top points for climate action. The evidence for human-induced climate change is irrefutable and includes an average surface temperature rise of 1.62 degrees Fahrenheit since the late 19th century, the warming of the ocean by 0.4 degrees since 1969, a loss of 286 billion tons of ice per year from 1993 to 2016 in Greenland, glacial retreat, decreased snow cover, extreme weather events, ocean acidification, and about an 8-inch rise in sea level in the last century. Only with a truly inclusive and worldwide effort, with every nation, government, and community on board, can we win the battle. This means persuading everyone that climate change exists and is affecting them, their lives, and their livelihoods, rather than simply a problem for faraway islands. We must also demonstrate that we do not have to sacrifice economic advancement to protect our planet. Green vehicles and buildings already exist, and eco-cities are beginning to emerge around the world. The genius of humankind got us into this mess, but can also get us out. If we sit back with hands folded, we send the world to hell in a handcart with ourselves on board. And discussions about trade, security, health, and education become futile and meaningless. My call to policymakers is to consider with the utmost seriousness what they can do to join our Commonwealth efforts to combat climate change. How will they support our work of helping countries to access finance and climate change-related projects? To promote innovative development solutions? To demand strong and enforceable climate legislation? And to launch a robust public education program which demystifies climate change and places the passion for climate action in the hearts of every man, woman, and child? Because if not now, when? And if not us, who? Pilgrims, that was the text of a release issued yesterday by the Secretary General of the Commonwealth, Patricia Scotland. Now that you've got it all on your lap, you decide, is this thing for real? Is it a lot of brouhaha about nothing? I don't know. We don't have time this morning to get into all of it because I see that my buddy Mr. Brian Pitt is back from the beach. No, he didn't. I didn't see him on the beach this morning. I didn't see him there this morning. But anyhow, Brian's going to be up right after this.
You don't know how many hurricanes will be coming this season, so you need to be prepared. At Hubbard's Hardware and Building Supply departments and Food Fair supermarkets, everything from canned foods, flashlights and batteries, to plywood, tarpaulin, lanterns, roof repair kits, water tanks, etc. are available. For over 90 years, we've helped you prepare for and recover from storms. Hubbard's Hardware, Food Fair supermarkets, and the Grenadian General Insurance, an integral part of your hurricane preparedness plan.
Studying too hard about back-to-school expenses? Co-op Bank is making back to school as easy as 1, 2, 3. Enjoy competitive interest rates, affordable monthly payments, speedy decisions on applications. Come in and apply today.
Good morning, Grenlek Meter Reader.
Morning, Mr. Meterman. I'm glad I caught you. Last month, I got a very high bill, and I don't understand why.
Last month, we were not able to access your meter, so we had to estimate the bill. This will happen if we don't get an actual reading.
So, what can I do to ensure that my meter is easily accessible?
Well, you can get your licensed electrician to move your meter outside of the gate or directly in front of the house. That way, I'll have easy access and I won't have to deal with your dog.
Ah, Butch.
Yes, dogs can be a problem sometimes. On one occasion, I was attacked by a dog and police had to get involved. Customers who don't want to cage or tie their dogs should really move their meter and make it easily accessible.
Well, I'll consider that.
Thank you.
Grenlek, energizing our Grenada.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try the sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
Alrighty, there he is. But just before I say good morning, Brian, a couple of quick comments. John Kennison says, and the burning of the Amazon rainforest is not helping, referring to the climate change issue. And Kipling says, It's all about the dollars, plain and simple. So we know that Kipling doesn't really buy into climate change. Anthony DeRigg says, George, this is one strange hurricane season, but I'm not fooled by the few storms. September is the month we must watch. Absolutely, Anthony. Good morning, Mr. Pitt, and how art thou?
Good morning, George Grant. I am great. As Dr. Alexis would say, top of the world.
Top of the world, top of the world. But Mr. Pitt, I mean, I think I saw you yesterday, but I didn't see you this morning. What happened?
There are different days for different strokes, George. We can't do the same thing every day, you know. Exercise in both body and mind takes several days. Okay. So I did a different form of exercise this morning.
Oh, I see. Okay. And, well, the next time we meet, you'll have to give me some tuition as to your alternative method of exercising. Fair?
Well, I believe you have professional tutorage from Mrs. Wilshire.
From Mrs. who?
Wilshire.
Mrs. yeah. And listen.
The mind and the body and all that stuff, you know.
Listen, since you mentioned Mrs. Wilshire, this morning, you know, we were picking up, we were picking grapes. And I suddenly remembered something, and I want to thank you for this, Brian, because I really didn't know it, and it's something I confess I have not even thought about. Picking up the grapes off the ground. I mean, there I am yesterday morning, picking grapes off a tree, And yeah, it's nice to have the grapes, but they weren't very sweet. They weren't as sweet as they usually are. And
George, Mother Nature has a way of helping us. Mother Nature arranged for the ripe grapes at the right taste to drop from the tree.
Okay.
So we should not disturb the Mother Nature and her process. So we pick the grapes up off the ground, and they're the sweetest grapes.
Well, after seeing you do this yesterday, that's exactly what I did this morning, man. I was just picking. I hardly picked anything off the tree. It was all up off the ground.
Yes, that's the way to eat grapes.
They're sweet. So thank you.
You see, I tried with you, George.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
I'm learning, Brian. I'm learning. But I see that you're frozen here. Just shake your head. Let me make sure that you're still moving. He's frozen. Are you hearing me?
My what is in the air?
You're frozen.
Yes, I am.
Okay, you're hearing me. That's great.
There seems to be a little delay.
Yes, the internet, we noticed that last night.
The internet has been giving a lot of trouble these days.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
See, right now you're frozen.
Yeah, there he goes.
And it says on my screen that my internet connection is not good.
Okay, yeah. We had that hassle last night on MeckWe Chat as well, so I'm not at all surprised that you're having it this morning. Okay, Brian, so you've been off for a few weeks. Was this all about playing carnival?
No, George. I mean, and in those weeks, a lot has happened in Grenada, George. So you guys must have had a field day last night trying to talk about everything in the time that you had to talk about.
You're absolutely right, Brian. You're absolutely right.
I can just imagine.
Never a dull moment in this place.
But maybe a good place to start this morning, George, is congratulations to Mr. Anderson Peters, who won the Pan Am Javelin in record distance for the Pan Am Games.
In his first throw.
And you know, George, and I asked myself the question, so what are we going to give or name after Mr. Peters? You know, and it brings me back to a debate we had some time ago on naming the stadium, the Karani James Stadium. And we did that as if our athletes were standing still. And the naming of that stadium, as I recall, was more political than it was to say we're going to name something after Karani's excellent performance on the world stage. But We have athletes born every day, George. And given the exposure that they're having now, given the training methods that they're having now, given technology, we're going to have improved performances from our young men and young ladies. So when we throw the buckets at one athlete, what happens to the balance as they come along? And I don't know when we're going to learn, George. We have to have a committee, independent of government, that will decide how we will honor these athletes on their pursuit to excellence.
So how do you...
That's all I'm going to say about this.
Okay, no, that's not all you're going to say, because I have a question for you. How do you think we should salute Anderson?
No. Yeah. No, I am not going to offer a suggestion, George. I am going to suggest that we put together a national committee of 5, 6 people. We have some reliable people in the community, so that about how we're going to award, congratulate the excellence of our young men and women as we go forward. That would be very responsible. I would not like to disturb that.
So you're not going to suggest, but you're suggesting, okay?
No, I am suggesting that a committee be put in place to do that job.
All right.
Take this out of the hands of people like me, you, and the politicians.
Okay. You know, Ray and I were talking this week about the fact that we're starting to really show our mettle when it comes to athletics in this place. We had this young lady, Iona, with a heck of a throw the other day. What was it, the discus? Hello? Brian?
Yes, I'm here. I'm listening. But
okay.
Yeah, we're freezing up, you know.
Yeah. I see that.
Yeah, I agree, George. We're going to continue to see excellence, and not only the track and field, but we're going to see it in swimming. We're going to see it in soccer. We're going to see it in all aspects of sport, because there is opportunity for young people. And mind you, think about this. Given that we cannot migrate as often and as easy as we could, one way of moving ahead is excellence in sport. And I think if we agree on that, George, we can see our young men and women trying to get the best out of their physical being by excellent performance.
Well, you and I do agree on the swimming part. I mentioned swimming when I talked with Ray this week, and he said, well, yeah, but not really, because, I mean, in athletics, we're making our mark on the international scene, whereas in swimming, it's still just at the regional level. But I think our swimmers here have a lot to look forward to, because I understand that there's going to be a major pool put down somewhere at Queen's Park in the near future.
Could you imagine we are having the kind of results we are having, George, with a 20 or 25-foot pool in Good Hope?
Exactly.
So what do you think will happen when these young men and women have a facility that warrants better performance? Come on. It's just a matter of time.
And I did mention to him that, you know, these accomplishments seem to be happening at a time when cricket and football just aren't where they used to be. Man, Brian, as a kid growing up, I used to love go kick ball outside there. And, you know, when Hanved and just name some of the other teams for me. Whenever these guys were playing, man, we were all down at the park. But football...
Yeah, but George, I think we're going to see a resurgence of that, you know. Given what I said earlier, that this is an opportunity for young men and women to travel and advance themselves. Let's take Mr. Archer out of Barbados, who is now playing for England and took 6 wickets against Australia yesterday. There is opportunity for talent. And our kids will recognize that, and they will perform at very high levels of excellence. Yes, George?
We just have to be able to harness it, correct?
The kids are determined enough to advance themselves. Yes, we have to provide the opportunity and the facilities. But I think they have the will and the motivation to do better, George.
All right. So as far as sports are concerned, Grenada is on the up and up. What else?
Oh, yes, I think so.
What else? Hang on a sec. Kipling Francis says we can give all the athletics special passports. Just remind he gave them. Oh God, Kipling. Anyhow, forget about that, Brian. Just what else is on the up and up besides sports, Mr. Pitt?
Carnival.
Carnival is on the up and up. I hear we had tons of people here, man.
George, and I was having a conversation with some officials over Carnival and suggesting to them that at this stage, we need to go back and ask ourselves the original question. Why did we move Carnival from the same time as Trinidad and Tobago to May and then August? Why did we move Carnival? I believe that we moved Carnival because we could not compete, or believe we could not compete with Trinidad and Tobago. Yes, George?
Okay, yeah.
And I stand corrected on that. Now, a lot happened in Carnival this year. If we take, why did people, ask themselves the question, why did people come to Grenada for Carnival? They came to Grenada for Carnival, I believe, given the numbers that I saw, for Juve, Monday night mass, and to look at pretty mass at that spectacle. Juve, the jab bands really did not start until 8 o'clock. So there was enough time between 6 and 8 for traditional mass and old mass to extend their wares. And as a matter of fact, there are a lot of people looking at mass between 6 and 8. So by 8, George, and those were a lot of those people came to Grenada to play jab and Juve. I don't think we're going to have any disagreement on that. Monday night mass was also very huge, George. And I question whether or not people coming to Grenada for that spectacle. That spectacle could be for Tuesday. So my argument is we should look at the reasons why we moved Carnival and how can we sustain the levels of people that are coming to Grenada without the disappointments that they've had. I understand that some people had some problems with a mass band that did not deliver costumes and stuff online as they promised.
Yes.
And that is a responsibility to make. The Carnival Committee has to make sure that these people do not defraud their customers. And in fact, there has to be some kind of a sanction.
You know, there's an article that's coming out today. It's out now in the New Today. And the editor raised some concern about whether or not Carnival is becoming a foreign thing. You know, when you have to start importing costumes from overseas, he was raising the concern that perhaps that may not be very good. What say you?
Well, you say, again, ask yourself the question, why did we move Carnival? Did we move Carnival because we want people to come here and say that the costumes were built here, or that they're original to Grenada, or that there was a beautiful king and queen of the bands and some elaborate costumes on the road? I think it's the latter, George. So this idea, well, let's put it this way. You don't make feathers and beads in Grenada. And most costumes these days is a bikini, beads, and feathers.
Mm-hmm. Okay, point taken. Yeah. Going back to something.
No matter how you look at it, a lot of those. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I want you to finish your. Go ahead. Say what you were saying.
No, I'm finished. Let me hear you.
Okay. You mentioned a little while ago that Monday night mass was huge. Yes, it was. But I'm hearing a complaint which really needs to be addressed, and this is not the first time. I understand there were some people visiting the island who were down near the Tropicana at 10:30 and still hadn't seen anything, so they just left and went home.
So we ask ourselves the question. The people by Tropicana came to look at mass. The people playing Monday night mass, did they come to play mass? And if the numbers outweigh, if there were more people here to play Monday night mass than to look at Monday night mass, then we have to find a way to accommodate those people who came to play. Is that not right, George?
I'm not
because
sure.
those people may have been tired after Juve and playing mass in the afternoon and then Monday night mass. That's 3 activities on Monday. Huh?
Absolutely. And we're not
Maybe we should have 2.
We're not all as young as you are, right?
Yeah, so I think we need to revisit that question, George, about why did we move Carnival and figure out a way that we can please as many people as possible that come to Grenada to visit around that period of time.
Since you're talking about moving, and you brought this up, let me ask you this. Monday Night Mass is a big thing, and it would be so nice if you could end Carnival with a big bang. Would you recommend the moving of Monday Night Mass to Tuesday Night Mass?
It is something worthwhile having a conversation about, so that the period of the bands could be Monday afternoon and Monday night mass on Tuesday. I don't know. This is something that we can have a conversation about. But I don't believe that will solve the problem. We can leave Tuesday for the masqueraders all day. At the end of Tuesday, we can have all the bands coming together and one massive jump up in town. Yeah, wherever that may be. Lagoon Road, wherever. So all the carnival, all the bands who played carnival in their costumes can mingle and have one massive jump up. There's nothing wrong with that.
Okay.
So I think we're having some difficulty again with the internet.
Yes, big time. Big
George,
time.
I want to also touch on this whole security issue.
Hold on, before hold on. There's some comments here I just want to share with you. Michelle Forsyth says, "A beautiful king and queen of the bands. That sells." Donna Joseph says, "Tuesday night mass should be held in Grenville." Okay. Susan Robinson says, "We are between a rock and a hard place with this one. There are a lot of grounds to be covered. The majority of people who play Monday night mass do not play pretty mass." Let me hear you.
So you see, George, this is why we need to have that conversation. Why did we, and also said the question, why did we move Carnival? And if we have to sustain why we moved Carnival, we have to have a national dialogue and try to find a formula that will please as many people as possible. And we can only have that discussion, at the national level.
All right.
There are a lot of ideas out there.
All right. We think a lot alike regards Carnival. Now you are about to go to the Prime Minister's security detail, and ironically, that's one of the notes I have here to bring up this morning. You start. Let me hear. What concerns you?
This whole thing is very troubling, George. It is very, very troubling. And by the way, let me start out by saying, I've heard it mentioned on more than one occasion and by more than one person that what the Prime Minister did was illegal. If that is the case, then somebody should challenge it in the court. And I don't know why it has not yet been done. Maybe it's done, and I don't know. But we have a bar association that need to champion the cause of the people. If this matter is illegal, then it should be challenged. But I tell you something, George, it's opening a can of worms, because there are a lot of public servants who would prefer to get paid, or public officers, who would prefer to get paid for holiday, for various reasons. Somebody might want to buy a house, they might want to buy a car, they may have some expenses that they want to look after, and is prepared to work to earn money to do exactly that. Yes, George?
Valid point.
On the other hand, George, a lot of us are saying, okay, so the commissioner of police has a force to look after. And I understand that there is more division in the force now than there ever was. And you have an elite bunch of people getting preferential treatment. It's going to cause some problems within the force itself.
Yeah.
Thirdly, George, I don't know if the Prime Minister does not trust the police force and the members of the police force. Why should we?
That question has been asked.
So we have, I think the Prime Minister unwittingly has opened a can of worms with this one. And I hear him trying to dance around it, but he's not addressing the core issues of the problems it may cause in the not too distant future. What happens if he leaves and another person becomes Prime Minister? Would he have to fire all 14 people and get his 14 people to secure him? I mean, you think about it, of the problems that this can cause down the road. Sometimes we make decisions, George, and we don't think of tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that is unfortunate.
But Brian, you know, this whole issue goes even deeper than that. Did you see the sitting of the Senate last week?
You know, George, and I asked myself the question. I saw parts of that. Where has Chester Humphrey gone? I asked myself that question. Where has Chester Humphrey gone? This must be a clone that was not complete.
A clone that was not complete.
Maybe no, I mean, come on. You know, they missed out some genetics in completing that clone. But that display challenged my mind, George. And it tells me that we are in deeper trouble than we think we are, because most of the institutions of this country seem to have been eroded. And if that is the case, George, I don't know what's going to happen in the future, you know. Because we're setting ourselves now for a time when people might feel they need to self-censor themselves, which means they're going to go silent. And if they go silent, George, you don't know what they're thinking.
Things fester. Yeah,
that was very disappointing. But I guess Mr. Humphrey has his own reasons to do what he did. As a matter of fact, I was recalling the number of times that Mr. Humphrey got up in the Senate and had some very, very interesting things, Mr. This or Mr. Petitions over time. Huh?
Yeah.
Very disappointing, Judge.
Yeah. Not you alone. Not you alone. There's a lot of.
I think he's put himself in the category as a super disabler.
Yeah. All right, Mr. Pitt, is there anything else you want to take on this morning before we pull the plug?
George, I have a 10 o'clock, so I have to leave. It was nice having this conversation with you. Thank you very much for accommodating me early. Maybe next week we'll have another go at some issues that we have not covered this week.
No shortage with you, I'm sure. Thanks, Brian.
Have fun for the weekend, George.
Take it easy, my friend.
Take care.
Mr. Brian Pitt there.
Bye-bye.
Always has something to vent on, and we're always all ears when he comes along on a Friday morning. And, you know, I'm terribly sorry about the hassle we're having with the internet this morning. It's just a repeat of what we had last night with McWe Chat. But it's all going to be up on Facebook a few minutes after the program ends, and on YouTube a little later on today, as well as on Grenada Broadcast. Now, we shifted the national report so that we could accommodate Brian a little bit earlier this morning. And what I'm going to do right now is take a quick little break here, and then we'll come back with the National Report.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try their sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
Studying too hard about back-to-school expenses? Co-op Bank is making back to school as easy as 1, 2, 3. Enjoy competitive interest rates, affordable monthly payments, speedy decisions on applications. Come in and apply today.
GRENADA Community Partnership Initiative, supporting health.
To the individuals who will be using these vehicles to serve the people, please ensure while we are using these tools that we use these tools in a manner that we will all be proud of. To GRENADA, a long-standing partner with us, a true testament of what can happen when private and public sector work together for the benefit of the people.
GRENADA, energizing our community.
Alrighty, folks, a couple of notes here. First of all, Ryan is pointing out that the internet is irksome. Yeah. Yes, Ryan, God help us. I don't know when we will get up to where internet should be in 2019. Not holding my breath. Anyhow, OP is asking, is Alan still away? OP. I mentioned just a short while ago that Alan was with us yesterday. So he's back, and looks like he's going to be around with us for a little while. So right now, let's turn to last night's edition of the National Report.
Keith Mitchell Foundation enhances education package to beneficiaries. Details to this story and more in the National Report. With the details to the news for Thursday, August 22nd, I am Rikisha St. Louis. Not only has it enhanced its education package to beneficiaries, the Keith Mitchell Foundation has also included students from Carriacou as scholarship recipients for the first time. Selected successful CPEA students are now receiving a scholarship for 7 years instead of a 1-year grant. 75 students were presented with their scholarship packages during a ceremony on Thursday. The annual scholarship vouchers are valued at $500 and will assist in the purchase of books, uniforms, and stationery. Prime Minister Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell charged the students to persevere throughout their educational journey and keep focused. He says in life there will be challenges, but these should not define their outcome.
Life story is not an easy one. It's not easy, and you don't give up easily. The more educated you have, the better you are, the better you are prepared for the challenges of your own life. So don't treat this lightly.
Chairman of the foundation, Sir Royston Hopkins, spoke about the decision to improve the package. He says there is need to make an even greater contribution within the education sector.
We've moved not to a 5-year scholarship, to a 7-year scholarship. Because we want to ensure that when you go through secondary school, you're able to go to T.A. Marshall College and do your A-levels or whatever you refer to it as, your first degree, to be able to qualify for government scholarships. Because government has, unbelievable amount of scholarships.
Member of the foundation, Hermione Griffith, highlighted the criteria for maintaining the scholarship for the 7 years.
Each year, the student should strive to attain a pass mark of 65% or over in terms examination to maintain their placement on the scholarship program. Progress card and report books. We would like for at least to have the progress card and report books reported to us so that we can monitor the children's progress. The foundation will make periodic calls to the school. Where necessary, there will be meetings with teachers and principals with regards to attitudes, application, and overall deportment of the student.
The foundation has been guided by the motto, education is a ladder of success. Prime Minister and Minister for Finance, Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell, says the fiscal affairs of the government will be conducted differently, so it will not be business as usual come 2020. He told the gathering at the 2020 budget retreat that the Fiscal Responsibility Act and fiscal rules make provision for a new way of operating with accountability mechanisms and new governance arrangements for good practices. Dr. Mitchell says this new fiscal regime does not mean Grenada is being constrained. Rather, more will be done without spending more.
We have to conduct the fiscal affairs of the government differently. The new normal is fiscal discipline, fiscal transparency, and fiscal accountability. We should not have had to deal with a structural adjustment program to make us reach to this. Some of the characteristics and variables I mentioned. But we are where we are, and we have gone through what we have gone through. So now we have to take it forward.
Dr. Mitchell says as the 2020 budget process begins, it requires a mindset shift from government and stakeholders to view the bigger developmental picture for Grenada's future generations.
The policies and programs funded through the national budget are intended to bring real solutions to real problems that affect our families, our neighbors, and our friends in all communities throughout the length and breadth of Grenada, Carriacou, and Pitt Martinique. The budget process, therefore, requires a mindset shift towards the big picture of developmental results that we want to achieve as a nation.
This is the National Report. We'll have more news after the break.
The house was shaking. Then suddenly saw we hear bang, crack, and the roof had gone.
Man, I was so scared, I nearly wet myself.
Only those who have lived it can truly understand the devastating fury of a hurricane's wind.
The house across the road just get up and roll over.
Hurricane force wind. It's a hazard. Hazards. Take control. Reduce your loss. You can hurricane-proof your home. For example, make your roof more wind-resistant by using screws instead of nails in its construction. Find out more about hurricane force winds and other hazards at your local disaster office. A message from the National Disaster Management Agency and SEDERA.
Welcome back. Grenada's Culture Minister, Senator Norland Cox, has cited as unfortunate the comments circulating in the public domain, which claim that junior calypsonians are owed appearance fees for participating in the semi-finals. Traditionally, junior calypsonians submit their recordings and a selection panel listen to the songs and select the finalists. But in 2019, a different approach was recommended by CEO of Spice Mass, Kelvin Jacob, to give more exposure to the young artists.
Based on what I heard from the news item, and speaking to the CEO in particular, I think it was a little bit unfortunate because the CEO, when he came in, one of the first things he said to me is that, Minister, look, I don't like this setting and how the juniors have been treated. And he said, look, let's try and do a semi or preliminary with the juniors instead of just choosing them out and just putting them into the finals. So my first question to him was, how are we going to pay for that? And he said, look, we are going to have the stage up in Progress Park,
and we'll have that vacant day between the semi-finals for the soca, and then we have the finals for Calypso on the Sunday. So he said, let's use the stage. We already have the stage here. I didn't think about that, and hence the reason why we give it a go this year. We said, look, let's try it out and see how that go, if that can be another event. And so when I heard remarks that the CEO doesn't care about the young people, I mean, I was a little bit stunned, because he was the one that made that suggestion.
Senator Cox says there was no commitment given to remuneration, and it is therefore unfortunate that there was an expectation of such.
What we would have done this year was just basically a trial run to see how that goes, and so we had never given any commitment to paying any appearance fees for that event at all. And so I don't know what was communicated to parents or and to the kids, and so it's quite unfortunate that they have this expectation when in truth and in fact there was no intention for that to happen, and we are feeling a bit bad that was communicated, and it makes it seem as if Spice Mass is creating some unfair treatment to the juniors, and that is not the case.
Senator Cox says it is a challenge when there is miscommunication on issues that can lead to unfounded allegations.
It's a bit unfortunate. I mean, if that was raised before as an issue, then that is something that we could have addressed. Because look, honestly, when we sat and we were looking at the prizes for the juniors, we believed that it was way below par, and so the increase that was applied even to the first prize for the juniors was much more than what we announced in terms of 10 to 15% for prizes. I can tell it was probably about 40%.
Extensive support is provided to the junior calypsonians to write their songs and for payment of the band fees. Prize money for the junior calypsonians was also increased far beyond the percentage granted to other artists this year. Finally, Grenada has taken another step in its efforts to preserve the country's historic and cultural heritage. A week-long workshop involving heritage watchers and employees in the Ministry of Youth wraps up on Friday and is part of the process to chart the way forward for cultural preservation. Minister for Culture and Civil Aviation, Honorable Clarice Modeste, says they have developed a relationship with Colombia in this vein following dialogue with the country's former Foreign Affairs Minister. She looks forward to a long-standing relationship.
So sometimes you think something is old and it's dated and it's no good, but there are many people worldwide who would be attracted to a country by its heritage, and the reality is this is one of the things that sets each country apart from the others, because our history may be similar, but there are a lot of differences, and the way we care about our heritage would help to identify us and set us apart as a people. So I spoke to the minister, was one-on-one in a conversation, and she agreed to come and assist, and then she sent a team within a few days to come to see what we had, and that's where the conversation started. We've had a lot of difficulties in getting it to work, but ultimately they are here, and in the meantime I've had conversations with other countries like Cuba, which has done extremely well in that, with Jamaica that has done extremely well in community tourism. I believe it is important to identify all of those structures, all of those areas where things happened in our country, and because you may not have a structure. If you take, for example, Leapers Hill or Carib's Leap in St. Patrick's, it may not be a structure per se, but it is a site, it's a location where something very important happened to the original people who lived in this country. So there's a lot to be documented, there's a lot to be categorized, there's a lot to be preserved, and there's a plan that needs to be put afoot.
Speaking with the assistance of an interpreter, Patricia Grillet, Colombia's advisor for Heritage Direction, Martha Piner, says they are looking forward to continued dialogue with the ministry to preserve the heritage of Grenada.
It's a pleasure to share with you all the systems that we have to protect our heritage and also the mechanisms that we have been constructing and how it has been implemented. Based on the experiences that we have had along all this time constructing our system. We hope our experience is useful for you because we have seen that you are very rich in natural cultural heritage that needs to be included in a system that is sustainable and through which you can manage it.
That story just ended the national report for today, Thursday, August 22nd. Let's recap the top story. Keith Mitchell Foundation enhances education package to beneficiaries. On behalf of the entire news team, I am Rikisha St. Louis saying thank you for joining us. Until next time.
GRENADA Community Partnership Initiative.
This is not the first time that GRENLEC, through the GCPI, has responded positively to TAMCC, and we are always appreciative for the support. TAMCC, like the GCPI, is geared to service the community. As a college, we cannot accomplish our mission of fostering Grenada's development through education without meaningful partnerships from other community members. GRENLEC has been a leader in this regard.
GRENLEC, energizing our community.
Can I have a chicken lunch, please? Large.
Real nice today.
I don't want that.
But you just asked for a chicken lunch.
I don't have problem with the lunch. Afraid the container.
What is the problem with it?
These styrofoam containers, they don't good for the environment. They shorten with life.
What foolishness you telling me? So what you want me to use?
Put my food in this.
Where you get that?
At the food fair, where you could get all biodegradable food boxes and disposable food supplies like cups, plates, anything you could think about. Name it, it's there. And they don't harm the environment. Food fair, taking the lead in cleaning up and protecting the environment. Hey, like you take me advice, you get in your biodegradable food supplies.
Well, girl, I supporting who supporting the environment. That is why I shop in at food fair.
Food fair, where you can fill your baskets without emptying your pockets. Products distributed by Hubbard's agency, Kirani James Boulevard.
Alrighty, folks, just about time to pull the curtain down. It's 9 minutes after the hour. It's been a great week, hasn't it? Thank you so much for keeping me company Monday through Friday this week. And we certainly do look forward to seeing you on Sunday morning for the next edition of Sundays with George Grant. It's going to be a good one, as always. Thank you so much. Now, I do wish you and yours a wonderful weekend, by the way. But before we go, parting word from the Holy Scriptures. Today's reading comes to you from the second book of Corinthians, chapter 6, verses 14 to 18. Do not be yoked together with unbelievers. For what do righteousness and wickedness have in common? Or what fellowship can light have with darkness? What harmony is there between Christ and Belial? Or what does a believer have in common with an unbeliever? What agreement is there between the temple of God and idols? For we are the temple of the living God. As God has said, I will live with them and walk among them, and I will be their God, and they will be my people. Therefore, come out from them and be separate, says the Lord. Touch no unclean thing, and I will receive you. And I will be a father to you, and you will be my sons and daughters, says the Lord Almighty. Second book of Corinthians, chapter 6, verses 14 to 18. Now, that's going to do it, folks. I thank you so much for joining me. Hey, always good seeing you guys. Have a great weekend. Have a great weekend. Don't do what I wouldn't do. Stay away from mischief, but have a good time. God bless you. We'll see you on Sunday.